And so for him, it was just like, how absurd can I push him before he's too absurd? But then I was like, it's opera. I can go as far as I want. I am Mika Eubanks, and I am the costume designer for Salome at Heartbeat Opera. Looking at the things that were happening with P. Diddy and seeing like the chaos that was happening, but also how that world was so insular in how people were dealing with it, I think that that was sort of a place of where I could look for just details. And then thinking about, in the context of the world that we created, was if they were put up in some kind of bunker, what things would they hold on to, and then what things would start to fall apart. Like for Salome's case, she is somebody who is presented as this rich princess that her mom has put together and wants her to be a part of this house, but she's also somebody who is longing for something else outside of the world that she's a part of. There's an image that we see when we first see her in the production, and then there's an image of what she kind of strips down to that kind of shows another side of her in terms of like the shoes. Like, is she wearing Converses? Is she wearing sneakers? But those are all the little details, but I don't want to say more because then I'm just giving away the costumes. In grad school, we used to have a teacher who's an amazing set designer named Ming Choli. And one of the projects that he assigned for like decades was designing Salome and figuring out who you'd put into Salome and what context that you would do it and how you'd relate to it. It opened my mind to this very complicated play or opera, and how the characters are so unlikable, but you have to find the humanity in them. And I think that that is the beauty and the challenge of this piece, because I think it shows sometimes the worst of humanity, but also shows what humanity longs for. I feel the challenge of this is not necessarily how to design the costumes, but making them relatable. Because in a way, like, even though this was written late 1800s or something like that, but in a way, people kind of have repeat patterns of how they behave. And I think what's challenging to me is how alarming it can translate to modern society. And I think that the only thing that I think is hard in this production is how people die. They're not necessarily ways that people kill themselves or are murdered, but it still is something that you have to deal with in certain societies, and even the society that I am in, that people are still being imprisoned. There's still the wealthy who are overlooking class, and there's a lot of discrepancy between classes that is happening right now. And I think that that shines through in this opera that still relates to today. Well, one, I hope that they're just dazzled. Like, I hope that when they see the costumes that they have a certain level of joy, because even though Salome can be very intense of an opera, but there's still like a certain level of just a little bit of comedy you can kind of just laugh at. And so I think that with the costumes, I was hoping to kind of create this cotton candy decadence, excitingness that's like, oh, but it's kind of like fun to watch, like reality TV sometimes. And then for that to kind of be broken down and kind of show the underbelly of that, of like what people do to themselves. Like, you ever seen like plastic surgery videos? They're disgusting, but like that's what this opera kind of shows. And I'm hoping that people will see the effects that this materiality has on you, or has on everyone who gets sucked in this idea of having to present yourself to society, how it's taking us away from humanity. But really, at the end of the day, all we really are looking for is to belong and to be loved. And I think that that's what I'm hoping the costumes will help tell the story of. I would definitely say Herod's costume was the funnest to design, because he's just so gaudy. Like, and then I was like, what bold ass color can I put him in? And so I was like, why not make him gold and yellow? Because it's like gold. It's like he's rich, and he's like, what would I do to be rich? And then thinking about like what event that he's coming from. And I just honestly, even though it's so like absurd when I look at it like on social media of like how rich people party, but there's a certain level of me that's like, oh my God, that's hilarious. And so for him, it was just like, how absurd can I push him before he's too absurd? But then I was like, it's opera. I can go as far as I want. I think true lovers of art can always appreciate art. And even if you're not somebody who's like, oh, I don't really do operas, but you can always get something from it. And I think what I love about Heartbeat is that they make it so it's for people who maybe aren't used to opera or have never really experienced one, or they have, but they just want to experience something new, or something that they've seen over and over again. I think that you still get blown away when you hear live opera, and it's a magical experience. And as somebody who recently started going to more operas, I can't see how you wouldn't have a good time. Join us for Salome with Heartbeat Opera. I can't wait to see everyone and to hear what people have to say afterwards.